Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the Interreligious Council of Linn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Hi there, and welcome to Ethical Perspectives. I'm your host and moderator for today, Quinn Pettifer with the Gazette. And today we're talking about a topic that isn't necessarily a new topic, but it's certainly one that has, as we're looking about resources, has made some great advancements, and that's all about attracting talent in Iowa. And what better way to do that than to talk to those that are working in this space day in and day out to make sure that Iowa, and specifically our region, is a viable place and a competitive place where people that have workforce needs are able to meet them, especially our employers, and what kind of impact that has on the community is something we're going to be talking about today, and along with who's working in that space. So I have to say, so this was not intentional, but we're all kind of here because of the region, because we were attracted to either the region or a job. So we're a product of what we're going to be talking about today. And I think that's really exciting. So we can share some of our own personal stories along with what you guys are doing day in and day out. So with me here today is Tim Carty with ICR Iowa, Liz Kennedy with Corridor Careers, and Jennifer Daly with ICR Iowa. Hi guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, and what better people to talk about this topic? Yeah, you guys live and breathe attracting talent, and when it comes to employee recruitment for not only our employers but for the betterment of the region. So thank you guys for what you do. So let's just start out because Tim and Jennifer, you're both with ICR Iowa, but you have different things that you work on, different scopes. So, and of course Liz with Corridor Careers. So let's first just get an introduction out there. Tell us a little bit about what you do. If you want to share a program or two about within what you're working on, that'd be great. So Tim?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Director of Talent Attraction for ICR Iowa. We're, like you said, Quinn, we're working on attracting talent here to the region. And ICR stands for Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. And so we cover Johnson and Linn County, and then also the 5 surrounding counties. And I'd name them, but I'd be afraid I'd skip one.
I think I was going to do it. Okay, maybe later on in the show.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay. I can do it. I'm just teasing. Yeah, so we're looking at people to get them here, whether they grew up here and left, or somebody who's just interested in our quality of life that we offer here in the region. Mm-hmm. Those are the people we want to attract. So
absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll quiz you on those counties later.
You got it.
Liz, you're up next. Tell me about Corridor Careers.
Yeah, well, I'm the product manager for Corridor Careers, and we are a local job board here in this community. We serve both Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and surrounding areas, and we have been here located in this area for a long time. So what our mission is to connect job seekers with employers and vice versa. We like to be a one-stop shop for employers so that they can get their job posted not only on Corridor Careers but throughout the web and be those places that job seekers are looking for work, and then also be a resource to job seekers to help them find a company that's the right fit for them, find a job that's the right fit for them, or find career resources that will help them get to their goals.
Because it's not just about filling the position, right? We're going to get to that here in a little bit. Last but not least, Ms. Daly.
Oh, thanks. I'm Jennifer Daly, and I'm also with ICR Iowa, so I get to work with Tim. And we focus as a regional economic development organization on business attraction and workforce development. And Tim really focuses on the talent attraction piece, and we have some other folks that focus on other pieces as well. But I get to work with Tim mostly in the talent attraction space on strategy, and then on a coalition that I get to work with you, Quinn, on, which is called Inclusive ICR, which is one of our core goals is not just attracting anyone, but also really focusing on attracting diversity.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about what accommodations they're going to be seeking out when it comes to not only finding a job, but finding the environment. So,
absolutely.
So yeah, the common theme is it's more than the job, right? And you guys have a lot of communication with employers. You have conversation after conversation about what employers are looking for, but then you are also considering the talent and the prospects themselves. What do you think is the biggest challenge? I know that's a very loaded question. So maybe giving me like your top, like in the top 3 as far as what are some of the biggest challenges you believe are facing us when we're thinking about attracting talent. And Anybody can jump in now. Now the formal introductions are over, so whoever wants to take it.
Well, I just think one of the challenges that we deal with, and it's a problem and a challenge, or it's a great thing. It's also a challenge, is our low unemployment rate. So most people who want to be employed are employed, and so if, for the first time in a long time, we have more available positions than we do candidates. And so now our employers are sort of cannibalizing each other's workforce, and people are just sort of jumping between different companies, and until we can attract more people from outside the region, that's going to continue to happen.
How do you sort through that? I mean, how do you is it just a matter of looking at the need, the immediate need, or the big picture, or a balance of both?
Yes, we're trying to do both. We're forecasting out where our biggest employment gaps are going to be. But I think one of the things that we've really started to move forward on is employers starting to work together to sell the region as a whole, instead of worrying about competing with one another. They understand that people who are in the job hunt, or students graduating from high school or college or trade school or wherever, they can choose any place in the country they want to live. And so they're not just competing against one another, they're competing against other cities outside of our region. And to win, they're going to have to work together and be collaborative.
You're going to have to play nice, right?
That's right.
How about you guys? Anybody want to throw a challenge out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would just throw it out for the job seeker. Like, one of the challenges that I see is that job seekers are not professional job seekers. So if you're in a situation where you're looking for a different role, maybe you just want to change. Maybe it's not so much as you're not happy where you're at, but you're just ready for a change, or you're ready for career advancement, and you can't find what you're looking for at your current position, and you're looking elsewhere. You don't immediately overnight turn into someone that knows exactly what to do in that case, because it may have been a while since you've looked for a job, or the rules might have changed since you've last looked for a job. Or maybe you're coming back from an employment gap, so you maybe took time out to care for your family or a family member, or you just went to school or something like that. Those are the challenges that job seekers face, and I think even in the slow unemployment market, there's more that employers could do to make that transition easier for job seekers, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But
as far as that identifying of someone that's in a position right now, but perhaps it's been in the back of their mind, like, what's next? From a marketing, like from a promotional standpoint, and you're a marketing person, so I mean, this has got to be like a not always fun, but a challenge. Like, how do you reach those people? I mean, because that could be anybody, right? How do you identify somebody that may or may not be frustrated when they're currently employed, but they're looking for a change?
I mean, I think
I'm not going to ask you for all the trade secrets, but just.
I mean, and Jennifer can talk about this too, but I think there is a lot to be said for just hammering it home that you are looking for talent, even though employers might be feeling like, well, everyone knows that this is a low in unemployment area, and all job seekers know that there's a ton of jobs out there. Well, try being a job seeker. It's not that easy. It's not that easy to find a role that is right for you. And job seekers look at up to 16 different places for jobs, so you got to be in a lot of places. So just making sure that your brand is visible in the community, that you're talking about what you're doing in the community. If you've got community partnerships, talk about those so people know that you're engaged with this community, not just living off of the benefit of being in such a vibrant community. You're actually participating in it.
Well, and that's part of the benefit of what each of you do. You're here. You understand the market because you are living it.
Yeah.
Jennifer, any other challenges you want to throw on top of the?
Well, certainly when we're trying to bring people from outside of the region here and convince them to relocate, we run into people who, if they have not been to Iowa before, who might think, gosh, I'm not sure there's opportunity. Is there really opportunity there? Is it really just cornfields, right? We know there's a stigma out there about that. Am I going to be able to find exciting things to do? Am I going to be able to build my career? Is my spouse or significant other that would be coming with me, are they going to be able to find opportunities? So, one of the exciting things, we have the Talent Hub and the campaign that we're doing, which Tim really leads, is trying to help people understand that we have opportunities here, and that they can build a career, build a life here, and that we're more than just cornfields, of course, that we have an incredible quality of life here for people.
Paved streets, Wi-Fi. I mean, people are just amazed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of building off of the perspective of the job seeker, how much is it about the job and the appeal of the position, whether they're from here or we're trying to recruit them from out of market? How much is it about the job versus the workplace? Let's start inside the. let's start with the employer first. How much of that do we who are working to attract talent? How much control do you have over that? I mean, there's only so much you can do the rest is up to the employer, but how do you balance that when you're talking about opportunities? Anybody jump in?
I mean, I think we're lucky. I mean, our employers here, for the most part, understand how important your company culture is. And most of them are civically engaged, like you mentioned before. And they understand that to be competitive, to hire candidates, now you have to offer great corporate culture and company culture, or else you're not going to get anybody to apply or stick around if you do hire them.
Right.
We do know that from research, a lot of the candidates that we're reaching out to, or potential candidates, have some kind of background with the Midwest or Iowa. And what we know is that they may very much want to move here or move back here, but without an opportunity, without the right job fit, they simply aren't going to. Yeah. And so, I think that for people who have experienced a Midwest life or an Iowa life, who already know how fantastic it is. The struggle is finding the right fit in terms of the job and making sure they have opportunity. Because if they're in a city right now that has a bigger employers or a lot more employers, they might even have a job title that doesn't exist here. So a lot of the work that Tim does is help to kind of translate, and a lot of the work our employers are doing with us is helping to translate from one job to another so that there's opportunity. I think it's tougher for people who have never been to our region, who have never been here. What we know is we kind of have to get them here to visit so that they understand that the picture they might have of Iowa is maybe not an accurate picture. And what we know from our employers is when people come and visit, they just fall in love with this place.
When you're talking, Liz, when you're talking to employers, and so Quarter Careers is highly, it's a great way for employers to be able to describe not only the position, but the culture, and kind of sell right. the opportunity, right? What's a win in that? Like, what would be considered a win versus maybe have to have a conversation about what you're selling there, or the realities. Do you have that? Do you have those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, we try to coach our employers, especially if in HR positions transition just as much as other jobs, and so we might have turnover in roles at companies, and so we may have these conversations more than once with companies, but we try to get them to consider, okay, look at it from a job seeker's perspective. What do you think is going to really speak to them when they come to you, or come to your employer and see what the workforce is like there? What is it, something that your current employees say that they enjoy about your business? Is it a family type of atmosphere, or is there leadership opportunities? What is it about your company that sets you apart? Just a basic marketing concept, getting them to think about that, because HR professionals aren't professional marketers either. Right. So just coaching them through that process and helping them to think back, okay, from an outside perspective, this is what is going to speak to people about our community here at our employment. I mean, at our location. So what it's going to be like for someone. And I think also for the community, we need to tout how great this community is to other people. So outside of market, like, they should consider moving to ICR, because this is a vibrant community that's always changing, always innovating, is progressive, is thinking about the future, is planning for the future. I mean, I was in another state, I won't say which one, recently, and sidewalks are a thing that we have here, and we should be thankful for them. We should be thankful. We should be thankful that we have a walkable community, and we have community members and people that are thinking about accessibility. They're thinking about what's best for our community with regards to growing into being an even more walkable city, maybe a bikeable city. What are these things that people are looking for? And then to people outside of this community, boomerangs or whoever, if they call that, the word boomerang just means someone that might want to come back here. The metro lifestyle you've been looking for is available right here.
Mm-hmm.
You can come here and have that, and you can afford it.
Right, with
And then
the
you can
added
still go
perks
out
the economics
and
behind it.
actually do stuff instead of just thinking about it, right? So,
Or blowing all your money on your rent
or
Right.
parking.
or your housing or parking,
Yeah.
so you really don't have anything left to enjoy the incredible amenities, right?
Right, and still have places where your kids you feel safe to go to school at, and so,
Absolutely.
yeah, all those things.
Those are some of our biggest advocates, I think, or some of our biggest champions of this initiative are those that maybe they grew up here, they moved away, and they're coming back because we can tout this all day long, right? But for those that are, they've gone outside of the region, they've moved away for a while, they've experienced it, and they're coming back saying, yeah, that was a great experience, but we really don't realize whether it's a weekend getaway or it's a couple of years. You don't necessarily totally appreciate it when you're day in and day out.
Yeah.
So you mentioned HR, and I think that so my question that I get, that gets brought up in a lot of our conversations related to workforce is, I'm going to go back to when somebody's applying for a position, and you're an HR director, and you're trying to get to know a candidate. That balance of what's appropriate to ask or to understand about that individual and how they will fit, or if they will fit in a workplace culture, versus I don't know if I'm allowed to. I don't want to even tread the line. What have you guys? Are you guys talking to employers about that, or HR directors specifically about that? Because it feels like it's a benefit, but yet it's risky. It can be a risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's a touchy area, right? And I think for me, I've asked this question a lot of times because I don't want to, step into hot water if I don't have to.
Right.
But I think it's easier for us as we're not employing the people, so it's easier for us to ask those questions. And so we try to work with employers if they have a candidate that they're recruiting from outside the region, or even if it's somebody who maybe is entry level and they're just coming out of school. We can ask those questions.
Right.
I don't. Liz, you may know this best. It would be a question that I'd be worried to ask if I was in HR.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking at job listings to make sure that they're following compliance, but I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so, but it's, with regards to that, I mean, you have to try and put on that other hat and say, well, how would I feel if I was asked this question? Would I feel uncomfortable? And just kind of use common sense in some ways. But I think it's an interesting time because we're going to be moving into, lots more video conferencing types of interviews and things like that. So there's just kind of this whole area that doesn't have regulation because of digital conferencing and things like that we need to be careful of. And there's a lot of companies out there that are doing pre-screens, right? And for companies. And so I think HR directors especially should be wary of some of these companies and make sure that someone is on their team that is asking those questions about compliance and non-discrimination, and making sure that EEOP is something that people are actually following through on, not just a word.
Right. Convenience doesn't necessarily mean that you've got fewer steps to take to make sure that you're following.
Right.
Any additional thoughts, Jen, on that balance, or being able to make sure that you're understanding the prospect and how they can fit versus?
One of the things we talk about is giving folks an opportunity to meet with somebody. It might be somebody else who works there. We have a wingman program, somebody else from the community, just to be able to have a conversation with them that's, it's maybe outside the work environment, it's maybe outside that specific interview. But I think it's an opportunity to get to know somebody, and again, for somebody to be able to ask some of those questions and to get a little bit more of a feel for whether that person's gonna feel good in that place of business. And in all honesty, candidates are pretty savvy these days. You can go online and you can find out what people say about their companies. So companies should be very, very aware of that. I mean, they should know what people are saying online about them. And it's easy for candidates to go on there, and it's a candidate market. So you really want to make sure that people are saying great things about your culture and your environment so that candidates can feel good about their potential there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that there are opportunities now because we're in this environment to be more candidate focused. And so recently it was kind of interesting, the Gazette, I know that we had a candidate was asked, can I come and shadow this role before I apply for it? And we're like, sure, come try it out and see if it's right fit for you. And it was, and so it worked out really well. But it's one of those things, if we listen to what candidates are looking for, we can have a really great result if we just try new things and try different things as employers.
As you mentioned, getting them here, whether that's here in the workplace or in that new position or here in the community, that's half the battle, right? The fit's right. So tell me a little bit about selling the region once a candidate has decided I'm gonna go for that job. I'm going to go for that market. I'm going to be here. What are the steps? Like, what are the different pieces? And I'm gonna look to you for Wingman, because I know that that's a relaunch, which is really exciting and taking off.
Yeah, so Wingman is a program that, like you said, Quinn, we're relaunching. It's been around for a little while, and the idea is to find somebody who's moving here from outside the region and connect them with somebody who's been here for a long time and loves being just kind of an advocate for ICR.
Right.
Who can introduce them to new people, who can invite them to community or networking events, and to just meet with them and make sure that they feel welcome here, and ask them those questions about, it could be church, it could be volunteer groups, it could be where are my kids going to play sports, or where am I going to get my hair cut, things like that seem simple since we've been here for so long. We do a lot of work to make sure that the newcomer or the candidate, if it's somebody who's being recruited by a company, is paired up with somebody who's kind of in the same stage of life. So if they're an empty nester or a young professional, we want to make sure that they're meeting with somebody that they can relate to and see themselves in, so they understand a little bit more about what it's like to live here, and really just get connected, because we don't want 6 months down the line the newcomer to say, haven't met anybody, nobody wants me here. We want
they
it
disappear
to feel
and you're
home.
like, what happened?
So it's a program that we've relaunched. And we're excited about it.
I got assigned my person the other day. I'm very excited to go to coffee. So Carrie, if you're watching, I'll be connecting with you soon. So you mentioned risk. If we don't take those initiatives, what is the risk? What is the risk if someone, just dives into the position and the employer's like, well, paperwork signed, your insurance is all set up, we'll get your 401k going, learn the ropes, and that's it. How do you educate, I'd say, like the more traditional classic employers that maybe aren't thinking about attracting talent in this way? Is there a delicate way to tell them, look,
I'm not sure it's delicate.
I
think one at a time.
I mean, you have to coach them on their onboarding. Like if they're struggling, if we see an employer that is struggling with turnover, it's time to sit down and talk with them and say, what's going on? What can we do to help you? What's your employer onboarding look like? Do you assign a buddy when somebody starts? Are you talking to your employees about being welcoming to newcomers? Because a lot of times, if your workforce has been in your company for a long time, they know the ropes, they know how everything goes. They're not necessarily going to go out of their way to introduce that new person and to know those kind of unwritten rules, unless you kind of remind them, hey, you were new here once too, it might have been a long time ago, but let them know that this is how you do the coffee in the morning, and this is where you should go get lunch. Well,
it's intimidating to ask for somebody who just started too.
One of my reps said today, it was really great. He was like, no one wants to go on a field trip with people they don't know. And it's like being a new person in this community is like being on that field trip not knowing anyone. And so except for a few core people that you might have brought with you or that were anchors here that got you here.
But they need to be oriented too. We need to connect you and to make sure that because it is, you get kind of used to things, or you make these assumptions that, everybody's super outgoing and gonna just go make friends and show up to a festival by themselves. And no, that doesn't happen, right? That's the reality.
Especially if their life and everything they know is somewhere else. That they'll just default to that and plan trips away, and eventually they're just gonna pick up and go.
And we know that happens. I mean, even they could be just a stellar employee and doing such a great job, But on the personal side, if they haven't made friends, if they haven't, gotten engaged in groups, if their kids aren't doing well, if they don't have a support system because they've often left everything else, then they're not going to be very happy.
Yeah.
So, and they may have a significant other who's in the same boat. So Wingman is a great resource, and it's open to anyone. So I just want to make sure I said that, because anybody can go on our website, ICRIowa.org, and they can access the program, and it's available for any newcomer to the region can get a Wingman, and let us help you get connected. If you're an employer, oh my goodness, you should be using this as part of your onboarding. If you have anybody coming from outside the region, you should be using it, because it's just one more tool in your toolbox to help retain somebody and help them be happy here.
Well, and that balance of life inside the walls of your place of employment and life outside of the community. Wingman is an excellent example of that. You mentioned inclusive ICR, which I'm glad you did. So I think that's also a great example of the accountability on our community. So not just the employer that hires the employee, it's on all of us, right? So explain inclusive ICR in terms of that, because none of us that are part of that, it's not necessarily in our job description, right? I mean, it's not part of necessarily what we are assigned to do. We just do it because we understand it. But.
Yeah, and I think it's so terrific that in this region that people care so much about diversity, equity, and inclusion that this group started quite a while ago, right, Quinn? And you've been involved in it for a long time. It transitioned to a new name, Inclusive ICR, and gosh, I think we have 54 people involved, primarily employers, but organizations, schools, we have our universities, colleges, and they're really all at the table because they want people to feel included. They want to be diverse and inclusive and welcoming, and they'd really like to do things that will attract more diverse candidates and make them feel good about being here, whether they're in their companies or in the community in general.
I learned something new every time that group gets together, as far as from an employer perspective, who is working in what space, what issues. I mean, it's great because you learn something, we have guest speakers come in, but we also just talk amongst each other about, hey, I've got this new person, connecting, maybe I should connect him to your ER, your ERG. That in itself is a value. And then the Wingman, as far as the one-on-one, is fantastic. And Liz, so Quarter Careers, obviously the posts of the positions are very valuable, but you've also branched out into having some community resources available too.
So we have a career resources section on our website. We tie it to ICR, we tie it to workforce, and some other community resources, as well as like cost of living calculator and other things for people who are considering a move here or considering just a different job here. They can use that. We've also been working with AM News Radio, WMT, and doing the In the Work series, which has been really great because it's offered the opportunity for us to collaborate with especially nonprofits, but also other employers and have them come in and talk about workforce issues. And so that's been a really great program for us to kind of branch out.
Excellent. So for more information, quartercareers.com, right?
Right.
And then we've got
ICRIowa.org.
ICR. All right. You guys have heard it here. We're all about attracting talent in Iowa. Thank you guys. Thank you to our panelists for joining us. This was fun. We got to share our stories about being, exactly. I told you to go fast, right? And thank you, our viewers, for joining us for Ethical Perspectives. We'll see you next time.